Doctor, are you presenting? Because we cannot hear you.
Is it okay now? Yeah. I'm use smartphone. Okay, good suggestion because I try to the call in using a setting for but this one I need to close down. Sorry. For this one, it's more clear. Oh, still have echo. Okay, where are we now? Just now, I think I share my PowerPoint. The main point is there is echo. Okay, not for you with the echo. Yes, I already mute one device, but still have an echo. Never mind. Okay, main point is what is the policy? Policy is a set of agreed actions that you need to implement. What we mean by the transport policy is the position when the government or a certain organization understanding or state of action that particular in terms of the transport issue. Okay. So in terms of transportation planning, is the process of looking at the current state of transportation in region or in the company, design for the future needs, and combine all the elements of budget, goal, and policies. Okay. So if you look at the definitions from many what they call scholars and also policy hub from UK, there is the what they call it policy in transportation. So what is important in terms of this policy? Okay, important for the policy in transportation because this policy in terms of they regards to the uh, they look at the economic factors in terms of safety and also in terms of environment. Economic regulation in terms of investment in transportation infrastructure, modal and intermodal, control of routes, ports of entry, pricing, scheduling, ownership, and competition. And then another one is in terms of safety and operation regulation, in terms of speed and design, in terms of labor regulations, in terms of security of passengers and goods or cargo. And another one is in terms of environmental regulation that in terms of hazardous material. They call it HAZMAT, HAZMAT, in terms of pollution or emission. So this policy is a mechanism in promote and develop, shape the transport sectors. Okay, the significance between transport policy then economic development, because this policy will support in terms of the what is going on with the country or the certain countries in terms of the transportation, because we know that the transport if giving the significant impact to the GDP, gross domestic product for the country. As an example, for Malaysia, is giving about 30 to 40% of impact on the GDP. It transpired and be interrelated and working towards the development of the country. So, in terms of sovereignty of to ensure control over the national space, okay, depends on the mode of transport. So they raised many questions about public safety in terms of regulation that I mentioned just now, three things: environment, safety, in terms of economy. Okay. So why this transport policy? It arises because of important the transport virtually every aspect of economic, social, and political activities. So we can see that many transport policy program from the past, if you can refer, you can Google out about Appalachia Project, APP, the Appalachia Project in US in 1960s about Trans-European Network. Recently is about China Belt and Road. Okay, this example of initiative in terms of transport policy, where the government and international institution such as the World Bank to promote the transportation infrastructure and service where private capital investment or service may not be forthcoming. Okay. So it also in terms of transport issue of national security to ensure that control over national space and borders. In terms of public safety and environment, in terms of requiring in terms of driving license, permission, limitation of working hours or of the drivers, impose of standard equipment like what I call in terms of passenger car, Euro 4, Euro 5, so all the standards, speed limits in highway for private car, public car. Okay. Example previously in 90s when example seat belt for passenger car is not mandatory, but nowadays when the policy has been revised, all the manufacturer of the car, they came out with a minimum standard like a seat belt, what I call airbag. Okay. Example also in terms of in 90s when there is in terms of gasoline, gasoline oil or the fuel, they ban in terms of leaded. Last time is they have leaded and unleaded. They use leaded to what they call to prevent in terms of engine knocking. Knocking that means the noise when the engine operate. But nowadays they ban all this leaded gasoline. In terms of emission standards, but now recently they try to reduce in terms of carbon emission uh, by introduce in terms of hybrid car, in terms of other mode of transport also they try to reduce in terms of carbon emission to the space. This policy also they try to control in terms of monopolistic tendency of modes, transport mode. They try to prevent any what we call domination by certain company. So if domination is considered as a monopoly, so they try to encourage competition. Like Malaysia, previously Malaysia Airline System, the only operator, but nowadays AirAsia, Malindo, they have also got Airfly, okay, and then also in terms of to uh, this policy, they try to control in terms of ownership of the industry. Uh, especially for Malaysia, they have foreign limit the foreign ownership because of the uh, globalization and World Trade Organization, World Trade Order, WTO. Globalization increase interaction between international level. So another one is in terms of deregulation and privatization. Example in Malaysia, KTM have been privatized. Okay, and then another case is in terms of broader focus of policy in terms of intermodalism and multimodalism, as well as logistics. Another last point is about social and political issue. Okay, that uh, refer to technical and engineering issue. This use of policy in terms of legislation and guidelines, then use of the government sectors, especially for Malaysia, is under Ministry of Transport, OT, and also the transport business entities. So according to the this subject, transport policy is more when there is a problem, when there is an issue, what is going on in current state. So they need to identify the issue or the problem, try to mitigate or try to resolve, understand the issue to the root cause, how in terms of this problem can be what I call need contribution from different groups with different values. So in order to look or focus in terms of the issue, they what they call use a causal relationship and also in terms of survey. Okay? Normally survey whether it can be quantified or qualified, quantitative or quantitative. In terms of policy makers who draft the policy, either in terms of policy of the government or policy of the company, you need to have available resources or latest information about what is going on, the best practice or the research finding, okay, in order to understand uh, what is uh, going on with the issue. So far, okay. So there is a criteria or instrument in terms of transport. One is public ownership, full or partial public ownership. Another one in terms of subsidies and taxation. Okay, because in Malaysia, example, for the company, we have given the government given subsidized give subsidies to the fuel. And then in terms of taxation, uh, the government promote in terms of hybrid or passenger car when they reduce in terms of what I call tax and also levies. In terms of regulation or regulatory control, in terms of technical standard for certain transport modes and asset, uh, in terms of entry in the new entry for the industry. In term, another one is research and development. When the government fund in terms of research, in terms of to improve, in terms of technical, economic, and environmental performance of transportation. So they have six. Another number five will be labor regulations, standard such as certification, working condition, compensation, and benefits in the transport sectors. And the last that important is about safety and standard in terms of speed, in terms of weight limitation for the uh, when you carriage. when there is the issue, this what I call it out that we need to look at in terms of the issue. What are the vision and mission statement, policy that have been undertaken, course of action, and objective in terms of strategically strategic objective. Okay. So in general, the policy process they need to go through in terms of these 5 steps in terms of is as general in general. If for specific, so you need to look at the specific. Okay, this one is a problem identification or definition, uh, policy objective to achieve, what are the option of policy available, and then the best policy selected, the best policy to implement from time to time. uh, this policy need to be revised and also need do some maintenance. Okay. What is a framework? A framework is a basic conceptual structure. When you do the research, also you need to do a research framework. What it means by a framework. Okay. Transport framework is actually in terms of what a conceptual framework, uh, example in terms of urban transport. So you need to have a guideline or in terms of the focus about the framework. Example in terms of Malaysia, urban transport, especially rail-based transit system in Klang Valley. So this framework will be giving the direction to the uh, transport sectors. So nowadays, the trend is for sustainability. Uh, what they call need to include in the transport uh, framework. Okay. example in terms of what is the impact on environment, EIA, impact on environment, impact assessment. Policy framework, a proper framework of policy must be clear and fully understand toward the direction of the purpose of uh, the objective, policy implementation. So the framework should be the first in place together with purpose, goal, vision, strategy, and planning of related policy. So the implementation stage is not the final step. It will need to be revised from time to time. Okay. So this what I call framework meanings by Masmanian and Sabatia. It encouraged a creative approach to transport provision by the public and related agency for improvement in future. Okay, I think I will stop here and then we will continue. Sorry for just now. We have problem with the voice. But this morning I don't have any issue, but only for this class. So for Muslim, happy Ramadan. Because this is the first class in Ramadan. Okay. So I will stop here and then I will share the QR code again for anybody who wants to add manual. Please stay and then I will add manually.
Yeah, Doctor.
Okay, I put already the QR code for you to